It really does feel like they've preserved that sense of both Mexican, Spanish, and Western frontier identity in the atmosphere and the ambience, which just it isn't something you find in a lot of modern U.S. cities that have all kind of become homogenized. San Diego still feels like San Diego. Welcome back to A Sense of Travel. I'm Michael, and I'm on a mission on this channel to document all 5 senses, the sights, sounds, tastes, feels, and smells of as many cities, countries, and natural landmarks all across the world as I possibly can, so that I can immerse you into those experiences through the screen. Well, this week, we are in the sunny and beautiful San Diego, California. Y'all, I cannot wait to bring you guys along through all 5 senses, so let's dive in.
In the state of California, right on the border of the United States and Mexico, sits one of the most interesting, colorful, and frankly surprising cities in the country, San Diego. In November of 2024, I had the privilege to journey to this capital of sunshine to visit my friend Elizabeth, and despite my adamant desire to live in a place that experiences all 4 seasons, I absolutely fell in love. San Diego is, in my opinion, everything good about Southern California. With nearly 1.4 million people in the city and nearly 3.3 million in the metro area, it's a fraction of the size of its sprawling neighbor to the northwest, but with twice the charm, authenticity, and rugged, scenic vistas. Today, I'm immersing you into all 5 senses of one of the most stunning urban parks in the world, an old town that blends Mexico with the Old West, an island that feels perpetually frozen in a 1950s James Bond movie, a surprising slice of Italy, Pacific beaches that few can rival, an afternoon under the sails, and of course, some of the best street food ever made. And so, my friends, let's dive into the San Diego experience together. You know, in many cities around the world, the downtown core or the city center often stands as the cultural heartbeat, the shining centerpiece of the city. True to most, but not all North American cities, San Diego's modern downtown of high-rises isn't where I personally found the heart and soul of the city. One place I did was Balboa Park. Balboa Park isn't a park in the way you might expect. It's the home to dozens of museums, theaters, restaurants, and gardens. It's also home to the world-famous but very expensive San Diego Zoo. Running along the center of the park is the main street known as El Prado, a palm tree-lined promenade adorned by some of the most gorgeous buildings I've seen on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. The absolutely stunning, light beige, Spanish colonial Renaissance-style buildings are dripping in intricate carvings along their majestic archways and terracotta roofs. Behind these unexpected masterpieces are gorgeous old courtyards with fountains, hedge gardens, ponds, and dining terraces. As you place yourself imaginatively into a stroll along El Prado, imagine the smell of clay tiles and fresh dry earth, and the sounds of trickling fountains, the occasional heavy bell chime from the nearby California Tower, and street musicians.
I'm not really sure what I expected when I came to San Diego, but what I didn't expect was to fall absolutely in love with it. And in particular, Balboa Park. I mean, wow. This is genuinely the best urban park I've ever been to. And it isn't just because of the architecture, although the architecture itself and that Spanish influence on everything is absolutely gorgeous. The flowers, the ponds, the palm trees are just amazing, but also just the serene atmosphere of everything. Everything is so slow-paced and relaxed, and it doesn't feel like anybody's in a rush to do anything. And it's permanently sunny, so, I mean, that's amazing too.
Balboa Park is one of the largest urban forests in the world at over 1,200 acres, but you still feel pretty connected to the rest of the city. Along the El Cabrillo Bridge, you get a front and center view of downtown San Diego. Everything about Balboa Park, to me, was such a pleasant surprise. There's even a Shakespeare Globe Theater replica here. You'll also find several homages to Dr. Seuss. Theodore Geisel spent most of his adult life in San Diego, and a bit later in our journey, you'll begin to understand the inspiration for the whimsical worlds in which he created.
Balboa Park is almost like the cultural center of San Diego in a lot of ways. You've got different museums, you've got theaters, the San Diego Zoo. Right now, I'm in the Spanish Art Village, and there's the San Diego Pottery Guild's kind of festival and market going on. So there's just, hundreds and hundreds of pieces of locally crafted pottery, and it's just really cool. It's a really calm and kind of relaxing atmosphere. You have the sound of the ukulele in the background. You have a pretty warm sun on your skin, but it's dry, so it's different. It's dry. And what a relaxing atmosphere and just absolutely beautiful. The art village itself is so colorful, with the old Spanish architecture and the terracotta roofs and beautiful trees and flowers. It's just really picturesque.
The Spanish Village Art Center, a 20th century replica of an old village in Spain, is home to over 200 local artisans. Here, the sounds of soft ukuleles and softly chattering crowds fill the air, which is warm, dry, and crisp.
Especially outside of the downtown areas, something I really loved about San Diego is the fact that it has such a distinctive sense of place, primarily through the architecture, because there's so much of that beautiful old Spanish architecture with the red clay terracotta and the beige walls. It really does feel like they've preserved that sense of both Mexican, Spanish, and Western frontier identity in the atmosphere and the ambience, and it really makes San Diego feel like a truly unique, special place, which it isn't something you find in a lot of modern U.S. cities that have all kind of become homogenized. San Diego still feels like San Diego.
Speaking of that sense of place, there's no better place to get a full feel of the San Diego experience than right where the city's story started back in 1769. The Old Town.
There aren't that many old towns in the United States, so San Diego is pretty unique in that front right off the bat. Just the fact that they have an old town. And it's really cool. It's very different than any other old town I've ever been to, because it is very spread out. It's not super compact like a European old town. But it's weird, it blends that Spanish colonialism with the Western frontier vibe, and it's pretty cool.
The Old Town of San Diego wasn't just the first area settled by the Spaniards nearly 300 years ago. It was the first European settlement in all of present-day California. Here, the wide, palm-lined San Diego Avenue welcomes you with its low, white stucco buildings and red clay terracotta roofs. These charming structures house old general stores, eclectic gift shops, cozy Mexican cafes, and saloons, blending Spanish colonial architecture with the rugged spirit of the Old West. As you imagine yourself walking through the Old Town Strip, you're greeted by the earthy scent of sun-baked sand and freshly made corn tortillas, accompanied by the sharp silhouettes of cacti and whimsical Dr. Seuss-like plants. The melodic clang of trolley bells, the lively chatter of pedestrians, and the soulful strains of Mexican music fill the air. That air that you can smell and hear feels like it's exactly room temperature in the most perfect way.
Historically, I've been a guy who loves all four seasons, but this I could get used to.
Bright, colorful patios invite you in with their festive decor, and everything feels extremely local, a trend you'll notice quite a bit throughout today's adventure. Most signage is also written in both English and Spanish. Just off this main street, a cluster of Victorian-era houses creates a fascinating and elegant architectural contrast. Further into the Old Town, Fiesta de Reyes sits in what feels like a Mexican-style courtyard. Low, white plaster walls and terracotta tiles frame boutique shops bursting with colorful art and pottery. Ranchero music and the gentle clinking of cutlery mingle with the aromas of sizzling Mexican dishes and the clean scent of soap. I've visited quite a few old towns around the world, but San Diego stands out in a peculiar way. A large chunk of the old town is a part of the state park system of California. Here, that Old West meets Mexico vibe I mentioned comes front and center in the form of reconstructed old wooden buildings and original adobe houses. All 26 of these storied structures of San Diego past surround the breezy, sunny, green San Diego Viejo Plaza, graced by colorful flowering trees like the Tipuana. Another way this historic heartbeat stands out from others is that it sits quite a distance away from the current city downtown. Like a lot of parts of San Diego, it's a bit disconnected from other parts of the city. In between a lot of cool spots we'll visit today are very suburban-feeling areas. One of those suburban areas, however, feels a bit different than the others. Coronado Island, while quite suburban in nature, looks and feels as if it's the setting of a 1950s James Bond movie, unchanged over the decades. This is one of the most expensive suburban towns, not just in Southern California, but in the entire United States. Coronado is a resort town, and its centerpiece, the crown jewel, is the magnificent, sprawling, wooden Victorian beachfront Hotel del Coronado. First opened in 1888, the Hotel del Coronado was once the largest resort hotel in the world. Over the decades, it's played host to icons like Marilyn Monroe, Thomas Edison, and Madonna, along with numerous U.S. presidents. Inside the grand wooden lobby with its intricate balconies, glimmering chandeliers, and sprawling ballrooms, which exude an atmosphere of old-world elegance, you'll smell sunscreen as you listen to the soft sounds of jazz music over the speakers. The beachfront itself is simply gorgeous and, as I mentioned, feels permanently captured in the world of a 1950s spy movie. The salty air from the ocean and the sounds of heavy, crashing waves and seagulls surround you as you imagine a peaceful, almost serene stroll on the beige Pacific sand. Coronado Island has a small downtown, and its main street, Orange Avenue, looks like classic Americana with low-rise buildings, wide streets, countless boutique stores and coffee shops, rather fancy restaurants, and theaters. It even has a series of celebrity stars akin to that of Hollywood Boulevard. San Diego may be a haven for Mexi-Cali culture, but downtown's Little Italy is one of the best I've been to, excluding Boston's and New York's, of course. Not only are there dozens of Italian restaurants and markets along the main boulevard, India Street, which is decked out in Italian and American flags, but there's a beautiful plaza called Piazza della Famiglia that, with its balconies, fountains, palms, ficus trees, and live music, feels like it belongs in the urban heart of Rome itself.
Okay, so is what they say in Little Italy in San Diego. Elizabeth got it just right. But this is actually really surprising. There's a large piazza right out here in the middle of the neighborhood. And it's just not what you would expect in San Diego. It's really cool. Tons of Italian food halls and shops and things like that. The air smells salty because I guess we're right next to the ocean. But then again, no matter where you are in San Diego, you're right next to the ocean. But yeah, a really cool atmosphere. You can kind of hear the sounds of Italian singing in the background, the trickling of the fountains, and the air is breezy and cool and room temperature, just like the rest of San Diego. Yeah, big fan. Oh, I've never surfed in my life. And after today, I probably still won't have. Let's see. Surfing in Southern California is almost like a rite of passage, and even though the Pacific water is freezing, those wetsuits are actually super effective. I can see why people out here spend so much time on their boards. It's kinda awesome. All right, my friends, update. Stood up on the board for 2 full seconds on the first try, and I'm extremely proud of myself.
Pacific beaches are breathtaking. The beige, rocky cliffsides are such a strong contrast to those you find along most of the east coast of the United States. Much like the weather, they're more aligned with the Mediterranean coastline. What really sets the San Diego landscape apart, however, are the whimsical-looking trees, flowers, and succulents. If you're acquainted with the illustrative works of one Dr. Seuss, some of these may look a little familiar. La Jolla is a neighborhood community in northern San Diego where some of the city's most stunning beaches and cliffsides lay. Dr. Seuss, or Theodore Geisel, lived right here in La Jolla for 43 years, and it's pretty clear where the eccentric, whimsical vision for Whoville came from. These quirky-looking, semi-arid plants blanket the cliffsides over the powerful Pacific waves.
Oh, to place yourself imaginatively into a day on a Pacific beach here in San Diego. The cascading sounds of the waves are powerful. They are loud and powerful. It smells like salt water and fizz, so, kind of smells like a quintessential beach. The air, though, is actually kind of cool. You would expect, Southern California, maybe it's hot. It's actually quite chilly, especially in the evenings, and most especially right here next to the beach. The surroundings are beautiful. You've got these wonderful, arid cliff sides with kind of succulent plants all over them. You've got hazy mountains off in the distance. You can see surfers and fish boats out in the distance as well. It's very relaxing, and a bit different, I think, than that tropical beach paradise that a lot of people expect in California. Which, by the way, the climate here is not tropical. Just because there are palm trees, it's very much a Mediterranean climate. Also, prepare yourself. Some of those beaches are clothing optional.
The beaches in and around La Jolla are great, despite that little surprise, but I really loved the town center as well. It's nothing too crazy, just a simple palm and magnolia-lined strip of off-white storefronts, cafes, and galleries, but it's that simplicity that, paired with those gorgeous cliffsides, makes it so perfect. The atmosphere is just so peaceful here. The sounds of crows cawing join the sense of saltwater, slight auto fumes, and local bakeries. Rising above La Jolla, with some gorgeous vistas over San Diego County, is Mount Soledad. It's from up here that the patchwork of San Diego comes into full display. An endless sea of rolling green hills, red clay roofs, white Spanish houses, angular mountains, desert brush, high-rises, and, of course, the soft gray-blue Pacific Ocean capture the city like a panoramic portrait. The semi-arid nature of San Diego really comes into play up here. The brush smells like aloe, ragweed, and pine straw, and there's a hint of something citrusy. It isn't just the landscape of Pacific beaches or the panoramic views that'll take your breath away. A perfect place to catch a sunset is the appropriately named Sunset Beach. The beautiful cliffs, glowing in a rustic orange as the sun's rays peek over the horizon, smell like saltwater and eucalyptus. The chilly, sea breeze-infused evening air surrounds you as you listen to the thunderous crashing of waves against the rock and gaze out onto the deep, dark ocean.
A visit to such a nautical city wouldn't be complete without a little bit of a sailing trip. Whew. I will not be the one sailing.
This was no surprise considering it's literally on the ocean, but I noticed a vibrant nautical culture in San Diego. Those strong Pacific winds mean that sailing is a popular pastime here, especially for those wealthier San Diegans. Although I am far from wealthy, I was fortunate to join the crew with my friend Elizabeth and catch some wind in the open ocean. The breezy air carries the scent of salt water on the boat, and an exciting addition to the San Diego soundscape comes into play: the calls of sea lions. These guys are everywhere, from the buoys and docks along the coastline to the cool water itself. Just like surfing, I can see why people spend so much time out on the water in their boats. Life kinda just slows down out here. As usual, I've saved the best scents for last: the tastes. I've talked a lot about that awesome blend I've noticed in San Diego of Mexican, old frontier American, and Spanish colonial culture, and the food here represents that blend perfectly. This is not at all a comprehensive list, but here are the meals I tried that I felt captured that delicious cultural blend that is San Diego. Fish tacos. Being this close to the Mexican border means that the Mexican food is authentic as you'll get stateside. The fish tacos are proof. On double-layered corn tortillas, the fish tacos I tried, one fried and one grilled, were moist, well-seasoned, and topped with deliciously fresh ingredients like avocado, cilantro, and pico de gallo. You can find these in particular at one of 3 hole-in-the-wall looking spots called Oscars. Carne asada fries. Carne asada is a Mexican-style steak that's usually marinated in lime juice, salt, and Mexican seasonings. Now throw that on some fries with cheese, jalapenos, tomatoes, guac, and onions, and you have the perfect bar snack. I had a couple of variations, but never with queso blanco, which I hear is better. And to be quite honest, I believe that. California burritos. There were 2 burritos that I had in San Diego that I want to share with you. This one is simply unrivaled by any other burrito I've ever had. That delicious carne asada and fry pairing I mentioned before is even better wrapped in a greasy flour tortilla. The salty, cheesy, hearty California burrito is so filling and just so good. Another burrito classic in San Diego, breakfast burritos, comes stuffed with eggs, potatoes, ham or chorizo, and cheese. I had mine from Dos Brazos near Mission Hills. While I've heard that salsa verde is the appropriate salsa to use for a breakfast burrito, I took extra care to douse it in a spicy red salsa. If coffee doesn't wake you up in the morning, that certainly will.
Y'all can fight me on this. This is the best burger joint in the world.
I walked 2 miles from Mission Hills through plenty of traffic, busy overpasses, and suburbia because I feel so strongly about this. In-N-Out is simply the best. The double-double burger is the standard at In-N-Out. A sponge dough bun, 2 burger patties, 2 slices of American cheese, lettuce, onions, tomato, and a special spread that makes me think of Thousand Island sauce come perfectly paired together in a paper bag for such a cheap price compared to that of, well, pretty much any other burger joint. If you're feeling super ambitious, a triple is worth the trivial upcharge. As with most of the world's major cities, capturing the full San Diego experience in just a few days isn't possible. Every city is complex, multi-layered, and rich in its identity, history, and story, and this classic SoCal metropolis is no exception. My hope, however, is that by diving in with me through all 5 senses, you were able to place yourself imaginatively into the stunning, colorful, sunny, and laid-back neighborhoods of San Diego in a way that makes you feel as if you were right there with me. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.